Sword Art Online Extra Edition is complete garbage. It's a useless recap of old episodes with a few dumb new scenes thrown in. Nothing important happens, and it adds absolutely nothing to the story. It feels like the creators were just trying to make a quick buck without putting in any real effort. Watching it is a total waste of time. As if suffering through Sword Art Online once wasn't punishment enough, why did they think it was a good idea to force everyone to relive that nightmare with a pointless recap? Who actually begged for this torture to be shoved back down their throats? If anyone genuinely likes Sword Art Online enough to watch it again, they can go ahead and do it themselves. No one needs this lazy filler trash. The first season finished airing barely a year before Extra Edition dropped. It's not like decades passed and everyone forgot what happened, so why do we need a recap at all? Who exactly is this nonsense supposed to help? Are the creators really under the impression that viewers have the memory retention of a goldfish? Or is this tailor-made for the TikTok generation, whose attention span collapses after 5 seconds if something isn't flashing, dancing, or screaming in neon colors? Either way, it's insulting. I seriously doubt even the most die-hard fans were asking for Sword Art Online Extra Edition. Imagine getting hyped for what's supposed to be new content in your favorite franchise, only to be handed a glorified recap stuffed with filler and nonsensical throwaway scenes. It's the anime equivalent of finding out that Santa Claus isn't real. But given how young a lot of Sword Art Online fans are, most of them probably haven't had to face that kind of disappointment yet. Sword Art Online Extra Edition is so sloppy and rushed that they couldn't even be bothered to check the basics. The spelling mistakes are ridiculous. They left out the U in Quest and somehow managed to screw up accepted too. That's not just lazy, it's pathetic. It screams, "We don't care."
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
There's zero attention to detail, zero effort, and absolutely no pride in the work. When something this sloppily made gets released, how is anyone supposed to take it seriously? It's clear they just rushed it out the door without a second thought. Just pure, unfiltered laziness. Leafa's name is spelled wrong too, which just proves how little effort went into this mess. And here's the funniest part of this train wreck. There are way too many swimsuit scenes because the author admitted that he completely misread the instructions and wrote nearly 4 times as many as needed. 4 times! It's like he took the word swimsuit as a personal challenge to cram in as many pointless fan service scenes as possible, turning the whole thing into a bizarre beach party nobody asked for. You'd think at some point, someone, anyone, would have stepped in and said, "Hey, maybe this is overkill." But no, they all just let it happen. And let's not pretend this was the work of one single person. There are hundreds, maybe even thousands of people involved in a production like this, and not one of them had the sense to pump the brakes. The result doesn't feel like a story at all. It plays more like a swimsuit catalog with a bit of low-effort voice acting tacked on. It's like they stopped aiming to tell a compelling narrative and just started pandering, hoping no one would notice. Or worse, hoping no one would care. Honestly, I'm not even surprised. Clearly, this author can't read properly or follow even the simplest directions. Maybe reading comprehension wasn't his strong suit, or maybe he just didn't care. It's like the mere thought of putting girls in swimsuits was just too tempting, and the writer couldn't help himself, even if he wanted to. The story takes a backseat to fan service so blatantly, it feels less like a creative decision and more like a personal indulgence. Either way, it perfectly sums up the complete mess that Sword Art Online Extra Edition turned out to be. It's so incompetent that it's almost impressive, in a "how did this get made" kind of way.
What makes Sword Art Online Extra Edition so terrible? Let's dive in and find out. The story takes place on July 25th, 2025, which just so happens to be the exact day I'm uploading this video. That's probably the most memorable thing about this disaster. At least the date matches up because everything else is a total mess. Kirito rides a motorcycle to school. When exactly did he learn to ride one? Was there a hidden episode where he swapped his VR headset for a driving permit and took lessons between boss fights? We're told he's a shut-in nerd who spends his days playing video games alone in his room, surviving on instant noodles, energy drinks, and plot armor. But now he's Tokyo drifting to school like it's the Fast and the Furious Sword Art edition. It makes zero sense. You can practically hear the author yelling, "Look how cool he is," while tossing logic out the window at 80 miles an hour. It's like they wrote the scene with one goal in mind: make Kirito look awesome, without sparing a single thought for how or why any of it would actually happen. There's the part where Kirito straight up calls the school counselor hot.
It's not my fault the counselor's hot.
Like seriously, this is supposed to be a professional setting, and here he is treating it like he's in some high school rom-com. It's not just cringy, it's wildly inappropriate. Imagine going to therapy and telling your counselor they're hot. Who does that? It completely undercuts any serious tone the scene might have had, and just makes Kirito look like a creep with no sense of boundaries. But hey, I guess when you're the author's favorite toy, you can flirt with authority figures and still be painted as the misunderstood genius hero. And Asuna is literally standing right there, like front row seat to her man calling other women hot, and she's just cool with it? Girl, blink twice if you need help.
Turns out, Kirito isn't even there to talk to the counselor. Nope. Plot twist, it's actually the guy from the Ministry of Internal Affairs. The way Kirito's whole vibe drops is hilarious. He walks in thinking he's about to have a nice little flirty chat with the hot counselor, and instead, he's stuck sitting across from some government suit with zero charm and even less patience. You can see the disappointment on his face, like a kid who thought he was getting ice cream but got handed a salad instead. It's such a weirdly specific moment of letdown, and honestly, it's funny to watch. The next hour, and I'm not exaggerating, is just Kirito sitting there recapping everything that happened in Sword Art Online and Alfheim Online to this government guy. This, despite the fact that he literally says he's already gone over it with them a million times. But of course, the writer had to cook up some paper-thin excuse about how the player action logs aren't complete. Yeah, okay, that makes no sense. It's a video game. Everything is logged. Every step, every attack, every menu click. You don't need a teenage gamer to narrate the whole saga like it's story time at kindergarten. It's just a lazy way to force an exposition dump and pad out the runtime while pretending it's some top secret government debriefing. It's clear the author either has never heard of the show don't tell principle or completely misunderstood it. Instead of revealing anything through action, emotion, or subtext, the characters just sit around explaining things to each other. If the author thinks that counts as showing, then he seriously missed the point.
The classic rule of screenwriting is show don't tell. So I was thinking we just show them telling each other.
I've already made in-depth videos breaking down the previous arcs, so I'm not going to waste time repeating all of that here. If you haven't seen them, go watch them. The government guy tries to butter Kirito up by giving him some snacks, including something called Pocky, because apparently even in a high-stakes debriefing, snacks are a must. It's clearly supposed to be Pocky, but I guess they didn't want to deal with copyright lawyers, so they just swapped a letter and called it a day. Classic anime move. It's like when you see WcDonald's instead of McDonald's in some other show. You know exactly what it's supposed to be, but they're hoping that one letter change will keep the legal team off their backs. It's a small detail, but it adds to the overall "we tried" kind of energy this whole scene gives off. There's this painfully boring side story where the other female characters teach Sugaha how to swim. And for some reason, the show acts like this deserves actual screen time. Like, why? Why did this need to be turned into a whole subplot? Anime is supposed to be escapism, giant swords, cool powers, and wild adventures, not watching a fictional character struggle through swimming lessons like it's an after-school special. Who thought this was compelling? It adds nothing to the story, slows everything down, and feels like pure filler wrapped in fan service. Unless the final boss is a pool, this has no business being here. Sugaha is wearing her school swimsuit, while every other female characters are in their own stylish swimsuits. And apparently, this is supposed to be a joke. Like some kind of "ha-ha, look how awkward she is" moment. But there's just one problem. It's not funny at all. What's the joke? That she followed the rules? That she didn't feel like shopping for fan service approved swimwear?
It plays like the writers thought, well, we need a gag here, and just threw this in without thinking it through. It's awkward, forced, and about as humorless as a tax form. There's a scene where Lizbeth is just casually squeezing Sugaha's and once again, it's played like some kind of funny moment. But it's not funny, it's inappropriate and embarrassingly immature. It's the kind of thing elementary school boys would giggle at during recess. Awkward humor and forced fan service. But then again, the majority of Sword Art Online fans are under the age of 10 anyway, or they act like it, so they probably thought this moment was comedy gold. You can almost hear them losing their minds over it, like it's the peak of humor. Meanwhile, the rest of us are just sitting here wondering how this franchise keeps getting worse and worse. And let's not forget, the script was written by a middle-aged man. This isn't some awkward teen scribbling in a notebook. This is a grown adult who sat down, thought, yeah, this is good stuff, and actually put it in the script. Really, this is the kind of thing that made it past the idea stage, past the draft, and into the final production. At this point, someone should probably check his search history. Because seriously, where is he getting these sick ideas from? Do we need to call Chris Hansen or what? Because some of these choices are setting off every red flag imaginable.
Have a seat on that stool there, if you would.
The author strikes me as the kind of guy who probably lists Cuties as his favorite cinematic masterpiece. Unironically, there's this ridiculous scene where Asuna brought food for everyone, and then Suguha actually wonders if this is the type of girl Kirito likes. You know, the classic feminine, good-in-the-kitchen stereotype? Like, seriously, are we really supposed to treat this as some deep, philosophical moment? Give me a break. How unimaginative and cliche can this get? It's like the story's stuck in some outdated fantasy where a woman's value is measured by how well she cooks and how girly she acts. It's insulting to think that's the pinnacle of deep storytelling. At the end of the conversation, the recorder shows it's been going for 8 hours, 23 minutes, and 45 seconds, which is roughly the total runtime of all the episodes in Season 1 combined. At first, that seems like a clever Easter egg, but when you actually think about it, it doesn't make much sense. If this is supposed to be a recap, then it should be way shorter. There's no way Kirito spent that much time going over everything in one sitting. It just feels like the writers wanted to be clever and throw in a neat little Easter egg, but completely forgot to think it through. Like they got so caught up in the idea that they didn't stop to ask if it actually made sense. And that's par for the course in this franchise. Sword Art Online has a long history of cool ideas that fall flat because they rush the execution or ignore the logic behind them. So this feels like just another example of that same old pattern, trying to be smart but ending up confusing everyone instead. The characters go on a quest in Alfheim Online because Yui wanted to see a whale. Like really? That's the big reason for an entire quest? Why is this such a huge deal that they had to drop everything and make it the main event? It feels so random and pointless, like the writers just needed an excuse to pad out the story without any real stakes or purpose. A whale sighting? That's the big adventure? Come on. This is a fantasy game filled with all kinds of magical creatures. Dragons, monsters, and gods. So why is seeing a whale treated like some life-changing event? It makes no sense in context and feels completely overblown.
There's a scene where Klein is straight up ogling the girls in their swimsuits, and it's super inappropriate. Considering he's an adult and they're all underage, it crosses a serious line. It's the kind of awkward, uncomfortable moment that makes you question who thought this was okay. It's definitely not the kind of behavior you want to see normalized, especially in a series aimed at younger audiences. What kind of lessons are kids supposed to learn from watching this scene? Are we really teaching them that it's acceptable for grown men to leer at underage girls in their swimsuits? Because that's the message this scene sends, whether intentionally or not. And that's absolutely not okay. It reinforces harmful ideas. It tells boys that it's normal to objectify girls, and it tells girls that being objectified is just something they have to tolerate. That's not entertainment, that's conditioning. If a show can't be responsible with the messages it puts out, then it has no business targeting a younger demographic in the first place. The characters face off against a tough monster, and of course, Kirito is the one who gets the final kill. Seriously, did anyone actually doubt that the classic Gary Stu protagonist would come out on top? It's the same predictable story every time. No real challenge, no surprises. Kirito just swoops in to save the day because, well, he has to be the hero no matter what. Sugaha has a flashback scene that's shown in black and white, like it's supposed to be all artistic and serious, kinda like those dramatic moments in Oppenheimer. It's not deep or meaningful here, it just comes off as dumb and pretentious. They're trying way too hard to make something that's pretty dull feel important, but it just falls flat.
The quest is just plain stupid. The characters have to raid a temple to retrieve a pearl. But surprise, it's all a trick. The guy giving the quest is actually the Kraken in disguise.
Release the Kraken!
That should have been obvious from the start. His name is Narak, for crying out loud. How much more blatant can you get? It's literally just Kraken scrambled. Subtlety clearly wasn't a priority here. It's the kind of lazy storytelling where they think a sneaky name flip is enough to fool anyone. No wonder the whole thing feels so predictable and pointless. Then again, Sword Art Online fans aren't exactly known for their critical thinking skills, so chances are they didn't catch on until the show spelled it out for them. The characters are able to use fire attacks underwater, which makes absolutely no sense. Like, what's even the point of having the fight take place underwater if fire still works perfectly fine? It totally kills any sense of logic or tension. It's just another example of the show ignoring basic rules to force some flashy action, no matter how ridiculous it ends up looking. The Kraken turns out to be way too tough to beat, so this guy called Leviathan shows up and the Kraken just backs off. But here's the thing, Leviathan is supposed to be a sea serpent, not a dude. This NPC looks more like Poseidon straight out of Greek mythology, complete with a trident and all. The author can't even get his mythology right, which is hilarious considering the game is supposed to be based on Norse mythology, not Greek. It's like he just threw in whatever cool-sounding names he liked without bothering to check what they actually mean. The characters spend time wondering what Leviathan was even talking about, and he just brushes it off, saying it wasn't important. That pretty much sums up this whole mess. Lots of confusing talk, but in the end, it means nothing. Classic case of fluff without substance. The characters get transported back to the surface on a whale, but here's the weird part. Yui isn't even riding the whale herself. Instead, she's riding Pina on the whale. Like, what's the point of that? It just feels like an extra unnecessary step that adds nothing to the story and just leaves you wondering why anyone thought this made sense. After the credits, there's a quick scene that tries to set up the next arc. It's like the creators thought this was a Marvel movie and everyone would hang around for the post-credits teaser. I'm pretty sure most people stopped watching way before that, so it just ended up feeling pointless. They're so obsessed with setting up whatever half-baked sequel or spin-off is coming next, they forgot the one basic thing you're supposed to do: tell a good story now. It's honestly embarrassing. Watching this is like deja vu from the disaster that was Universal's Dark Universe. Remember that train wreck? They were so busy dreaming up some grand interconnected franchise that they forgot to make a single decent movie to start with. And just like that, it collapsed after one miserable attempt. This feels exactly the same. All set up, no payoff, and zero awareness that no one cares what's next if what's now sucks. It's not just bad, it's aggressively bad. If I could give it less than 0 stars, I would do that. I'd plunge straight into the negatives and keep going until I hit the molten core of cinematic failure. This thing doesn't even deserve to be rated. It deserves to be forgotten, buried under the mountain of better content that actually respects its audience. Watching it feels like being punished for having free time. The fact that Sword Art Online Extra Edition even exists is a complete embarrassment to the anime medium. It's not just a disgrace, it's a tone-deaf, creatively bankrupt cash grab dressed up as content, cobbled together for no reason other than to squeeze more money out of the franchise's already over-milked husk. It's an insult to storytelling, a slap in the face to anyone who values character development, pacing, or even the faintest whiff of originality. Watching it is like being force-fed a bland, reheated summary of a show that wasn't holding itself together to begin with, except now with even less purpose and more pointless fan service. The only thing extra about it is the audacity it has to waste your time. It's absolutely hilarious. No, pathetically entertaining, seeing people get hyped over Sword Art Online Extra Edition. Like seriously, is the bar for storytelling buried 6 feet under at this point?
You're telling me people are genuinely excited for a glorified recap episode of a show they've already watched? That's what passes for hype-worthy content now? A lazy, recycled clip show padded with fan service and maybe a couple minutes of new material, if you can even call it that? The same crowd who thinks deep themes means Kirito swinging a sword in slow motion while whispering something vaguely profound sounding like, "I must protect her." I guess if you've been spoon-fed trash long enough, even reheated garbage starts tasting like a feast. Don't even waste a single second of your life on this dumpster fire. Actually, better yet, do yourself a favor and avoid anything with Sword Art Online in the title. Like it's radioactive sludge. It's not worth your time, your brain cells, or the electricity powering your screen. There are literally thousands of better shows and movies out there. Ones with actual writing, real character development, and plots that don't feel like they were scribbled on a napkin during lunch break at a middle school anime club. Watching Sword Art Online in 2025 is like willingly choosing to eat moldy bread when you're standing next to a 5-star buffet. Stop settling for awfulness. You deserve better, even if your taste hasn't figured that out yet.
You can do better than me.
The fact that they spent actual time, money, and manpower making Sword Art Online Extra Edition is honestly depressing. Somewhere out there, talented animators and voice actors were forced to funnel their energy into this hollow, low-effort recap filler hybrid instead of working on anything with artistic value.
The studio could have been making good anime, pushing creative boundaries, or at least not actively lowering the medium standards, but instead, they funneled their resources into glorified fan service and narrative leftovers, like a restaurant serving you microwave scraps and calling it a special edition. It's not just a waste, it's cinematic negligence. How is the author not absolutely mortified by the trash he keeps putting out? If I wrote even a fraction of this garbage, I'd be hiding under a rock, too embarrassed to show my face in public. It's like he's deliberately trolling the audience, churning out sloppy, uninspired nonsense and somehow thinking it's good enough. It's baffling how he can look in the mirror without cringing at the disaster he calls a story. If this is his idea of creativity, then maybe he should just quit while he's behind. There is quite literally nothing redeeming about Sword Art Online Extra Edition. It's a lazy, pointless recap stuffed with awkward filler that adds absolutely no value to the story or characters. It feels like a cash grab designed to waste time, not entertain. I'd genuinely rather sit through Morbius 1,000 times in a row. At least that train wreck was trying to do something new, no matter how poorly executed. Extra Edition doesn't even try. It's the creative equivalent of a shrug and a paycheck. Additionally, here are some of the author's biggest regrets.
The author of Sword Art Online has made a ton of mistakes throughout his career, and there are lots of things he would have done differently. Here are Reki Kawahara's biggest regrets about Sword Art Online. Aincrad rushed. Sword Art Online was first written for a writing competition, so Reki Kawahara had to use time skips because there was a page limit. He still went over the limit and didn't want to cut anything out, so Reki Kawahara posted the story on his personal website instead. The first volume of Sword Art Online was always meant to be standalone. However, Reki Kawahara's readers wanted a sequel, so that's why he started writing more. It was too late to fix Aincrad's rush pacing by then, but Reki Kawahara has since started writing Sword Art Online Progressive. Instead of telling the entire story in one novel, it goes for a floor-by-floor approach. Kirito overpowered. One of the biggest complaints about Sword Art Online is that the main character, Kirito, is way too overpowered. Even Reki Kawahara agrees with this criticism. He admitted that Kirito is such a perfect character, almost too perfect. That's why he created the character of Haruyuki Arita from Excel World to be completely different. Reki Kawahara wanted to create a flawed character because he thinks it will be better for growth. Chapter 16.5. You probably already know what Sword Art Online Chapter 16.5 is, but in case you don't, it's about Kirito and Asuna for the first time. No, it's not a parody. It was written by Reki Kawahara himself, and it's super cringy. He said that he wishes the topic would disappear quickly into the darkness of history. You can never permanently delete something from the internet though, so for better or worse, Sword Art Online Chapter 16.5 will live on in infamy. Yu-Gi-Oh dying. Yu-Gi-Oh was the other main character of the Alicization arc. Unfortunately, he dies by the end of the arc, and many people were sad about this, including Reki Kawahara. In fact, Reki Kawahara said he had the opportunity to change Yu-Gi-Oh's fate when he was rewriting Sword Art Online Online Alicization for Dengeki Bunko. He wasn't able to do it then, but he was given another chance when it came time for Sword Art Online Alicization's anime adaptation. But in the end, Reki Kawahara was still not able to change anything. Asuna's character. Asuna starts off as a strong, independent warrior, but her character was reduced to a damsel in distress. A lot of people didn't like that. Reki Kawahara said that he created the character of Asuna a little too perfectly, and when teamed up with Kirito, there wasn't a problem the two of them couldn't overcome. He had to separate Kirito and Asuna during the fairy dance arc in order to increase the sense of urgency. To make up for Asuna's mistreatment, Reki Kawahara wrote the Mother's Rosario arc and made Asuna the hero of the story. Nerve gear setup. There's a lot of plot holes when it comes to the nerve gear. Reki Kawahara even confesses this himself.
今のそのナーブギアっていうものの設定にもいろいろそのほころびはあるんですが。
Furthermore, Reki Kawahara mentioned one of the plot holes he heard about was destroying the nerve gear before it kills the players. In order to fix this, Reki Kawahara explained that Kaiba Akihiko would kill a random player if another player successfully removed the nerve gear. Scenes.
Why the is Sword Art Online so bloody?
Reki Kawahara has regretted relying on plot device. He explained that he included because the stories he read in middle school contained those kinds of elements. Now that he's grown as a storyteller, Reki Kawahara said that he will give female characters a more active role in his stories. Reki Kawahara even said that he would like to write a love story between two girls. And those are Reki Kawahara's biggest regrets about the Sword Art Online series. Well, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a future upload. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.
As you can see, Sword Art Online is overall a deeply flawed anime with laughably bad writing, shallow characters, and some of the worst pacing you'll find in any popular series. If you value your time, your sanity, or your standards, avoid this mess at all costs. But somehow, the show itself isn't even the worst part. The fandom is. Sword Art Online fans are absolutely delusional. They worship this dumpster fire like it's the pinnacle of human achievement, acting as if it's a flawless masterpiece beyond criticism. Try pointing out even the most basic flaws, and you'll be met with blind devotion and absurd defenses. It's like trying to have a rational conversation with a brick wall that screams, "You just don't get it," every 5 seconds. The Sword Art Online fanbase honestly feels more like a cult than a group of anime fans. Blind loyalty is the only thing they accept. Questioning the show in any way is treated like blasphemy. If you so much as breathe a mildly negative opinion in their direction, they lose it. They'll swarm you with defensive outrage, personal attacks, and endless excuses, as if disagreeing with them is some kind of unforgivable sin. It's less about loving an anime and more about aggressively enforcing groupthink. If you thought the Star Wars or K-pop communities were toxic, then you clearly haven't encountered the Sword Art Online fans yet. They take it to another level. These people will go out of their way to harass anyone who dares to have a different opinion, as if disliking the show is some kind of crime. It's genuinely absurd. Express even the slightest criticism, and they act like you've committed a personal offense against them. It's not a fan base, it's a mob with Wi-Fi. The fan base is consistently ranked as one of the worst anime communities of all time. They're known more for their hostility and blind devotion than anything else. But instead of taking any responsibility for how toxic and insufferable the community has become, the fans just point fingers. It's always someone else's fault. Critics or haters, other fandoms are jealous, and anyone with a different opinion is just too dumb to understand the show. It's never about self-awareness, it's all deflection and denial. How do Sword Art Online fans even sleep at night without cringing themselves into insomnia? If I were a fan of something that painfully bad, I'd keep it a secret like a deep, shameful embarrassment. The idea of proudly defending a show with such awful writing, laughable dialogue, and empty characters is beyond me. Honestly, if I liked Sword Art Online, which I obviously don't, I'd be too embarrassed to even bring it up in public. Don't even bother wasting your time or energy interacting with Sword Art Online fans. It's just not worth it. They'll twist your words, take things completely out of context, or flat out lie about what you said just to make themselves look like the reasonable ones. It's sad, it's pathetic, and honestly, it's exhausting. Instead of engaging in honest discussion, they double down on their delusions and act like they're being persecuted for liking the show. They seriously need to grow up and develop some actual taste in anime. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and like and subscribe, because this is just the beginning. There's a lot more Sword Art Online hate coming your way. And trust me, every bit of it is deserved. We're not holding back. This show has gotten a free pass for far too long, and it's time to call out the nonsense for what it is. So stick around, because we're going to keep dragging this disaster of an anime and the delusional fan base that worships it like it's some kind of masterpiece. Let's tear this mess apart together and uncover every flaw that makes Sword Art Online the disaster it is. From the awful writing to the flat characters and laughable plot twists, we're going to break down exactly why this dumpster fire earns its spot as one of the worst anime of all time. Get ready, because we're not holding back. Let's keep the hate flowing strong and the truth louder than ever.